Rahim. I am here again with Dr. Omar Zaid. And I know, sisters, that this is going to be a little bit of a touchy topic, but I recommend you listen to it and, kind of just let yourself just reminisce over the ideas that will be spoken about. And, and then just, let it just sink in. You don't have to necessarily I guess, dive into the idea completely. I guess it would happen in steps. How does it work, Dr. Omar? I guess I'll just come to you. I know polygamy is a big issue. I'm asked about it a lot. And then the brothers that I know that have gone that route, something always goes wrong. That's not to say every single time, but majority of the time, some issues do come up. Now, I know that even the Prophet had issues with his wives on this issue, but not necessarily because of polygamy itself. So I'm just going to let you take over here.
Assalamu alaikum, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. May it please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us wisdom and refuge in this hour. Yeah, brother, this is a touchy subject, but it's necessary to discuss it, and to discuss it frankly, as frank as we can possibly be about it. I did it as well, and I'm not going to say that I failed. It was a group failure, and the onus actually, from my experience, belongs on the women. It's not a manly thing to fail at this, unless you have a boy man who's trying to play the game, okay? A manly man, if he takes this on, he does it for a couple of different reasons. One is because he's hyper-masculine, okay? Let's talk about that. And you ladies, listen to me very carefully, please.
Yes, inshallah.
You have some men for whom one wife is just not enough, okay? This is not to say that there aren't men who are quite happy with one wife. Yes, there are, and they happen to be the majority. But there is a group of men who have higher levels of everything that is manly, okay? Including testosterone, including the sex drive. If you take one of these, shall we say...
this would be like the alpha male?
This is beyond the alpha male. Okay, I'm going to exaggerate here a little bit, but not by much. Okay, if you've seen the film called Achilles, what's it called, Troy? There's Brad Pitt played Achilles in this thing, and there's one scene in there where he's being called to the battlefield, and he's in his tent with two exhausted women, okay? And he gets up out of the bed after the messenger from the king arrives. The women are still exhausted, okay? He's absolutely decimated them. And he gets up, they're still sleeping. And this is the kind of man who can exhaust 2 or 3 women, go out, kill a giant, and come back and do it again.
Sounds like the companions of the Prophet, some of them. Like
some of them, yes, yeah. Some of them were like this. Now, there are some men out there who absolutely need sex, especially in their manly years, their younger years, between the ages of 20, 25, and 40 or 50. They need sex 3, 4, 5 times a day. Okay, some. There are other men who twice or 2 times a day is fine. There's other men who once a day is fine. Okay, even that's a lot. Even once a day is a lot compared to the normal male who, after a couple of years of marriage, is is calmed down, if you will, and he's just happy to have sex 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah, so that's what we read here in the U.S. The studies. The average couple has intimacy 2 or 3 times a week.
Yes,
And I think it's getting worse because relationships are getting worse.
relationships are getting worse and
But
testosterone
doesn't
levels
that
are
also
dropping.
like play out with all the pornography and everything there? There are all these alternatives now, and that's probably one of the
Well,
reasons that it has gone down.
set aside the addiction, okay?
Okay.
If you have a healthy male and he's got a willing wife who stimulates him, okay, he will not turn to pornography,
Hmm.
especially if she does everything she possibly can to please him in the bedroom.
Hmm.
This will not happen. A man like that will only turn to pornography if he doesn't have such a wife.
Hmm.
Okay. And pornography has always been around.
Hmm.
It's just more prevalent now. You
Okay,
have
very good point. Yeah.
easy access. If you look at the Roman villas, if you look at even the normal household in the Roman days, 2,000 years ago, there were pornographic images all throughout almost every household. You had a Priapus. You had images of people having intimate intercourse. Okay, this
Hmm.
was common. It was always there. And so in those days, if a man didn't have a wife, all he had to turn around was look at the nearest fresco, get stimulated, and stimulate himself. And in a couple of minutes, it's all over. Then he can go back to work. Okay. And this is another thing you women need to understand. If your man is hypersexed, and there are hypersex men, we're talking about the alpha male and the double alpha male, the triple alpha male, they're out there.
Hmm.
And some of you ladies think you can handle them, and you can't. Okay. Imagine now, dear lady, listen to me. Imagine having this man on your hand on a daily basis, and he wants to bed you 3, 4, 5 times a day.
Hmm.
Okay. If you experience that after a week or 2 weeks, you're going to be finished. Okay. He will wear you out.
Hmm.
Okay. And you will not be the least bit interested in this Achilles. Okay.
Hmm.
You want to go home to Papa, believe me. Okay. And so this kind of man needs more than one wife.
Hmm.
That's one reason for polygamy. Okay. One reason. There are other reasons. Okay. And I'm not going to go into those at the moment, but there are other reasons. And I think we all have a pretty good
Uh,
handle. Some
Dr.
of,
Omar, I'd like to
yes.
share with you that once I was invited at a university to talk about Islam, and so the issue of polygamy came up.
Yes.
And I had done some research on the issue, and so I brought up this issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, so there is a lady. She's been in multiple bad relationships. So she's in relationship A, it goes bad, B, bad. She doesn't
Mm-hmm.
trust men anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Now, uh, and if she doesn't want to now get into another relationship, start over again, start all the investment again, just to take
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked the girls in the university, in the classroom where I was speaking, I said, how many of you single mothers would be at least consider that here's a man, he's married, he's stable, he's financially doing well, his wife can testify he's relatively a good guy. Uh, would you consider that as an option compared to going into a totally new relationship and not knowing if it'll be stable or not?
Mm-hmm.
To my surprise, because I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking about this from my own logical perspective,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say 80% of the single mothers in the
Mm-hmm.
university, 80% of the single mothers raised their hand and said, yes, I would at least definitely think about it.
Yes, I did a similar survey when I was in medical practice. A good number of my patients were elderly women, and many of them were single and not by choice. And so I did a survey and I asked them, if they had to live their life over again, you also find that these women are more sick, okay, than the
Mm,
happily married woman, okay, or even they're more sick than the happily settled mistress as well,
mm,
okay. So I did my survey because I already knew these statistics, and I asked them if they had the chance to do it again, would they become a mistress or the second wife or a third wife of a reasonably good man? And I say reasonably good man because, there may be decent men out there, but we're not all good.
mhm,
Okay, we
mm,
you know we try to be, but we fail. Okay, but more some of us are more responsible than others. So most of these women said yes, they would. They would happily become a mistress rather than live their life alone and without that companionship. Now, this has more to do with companionship than it has with sex, although the sex is, you think of it this way, the sexual relationship is like opening a locked door,
mm,
okay? And once you open the door, then you enter into the house of companionship, okay?
mm,
The companionship between a man and a woman without the sex is more of a say familial brotherly sister type of thing, and it's not the same degree of intimacy.
mm,
Okay, it's just not there, and so when you have that degree of intimacy, that degree of companionship, there's a whole uh, uh, a universe of possibilities which open to greater levels of communication. Okay.
mm,
Now, and this communication allows us to participate in the community in wider levels.
mm,
The problem here is that we have this Judeo-Christian false ethic, okay, and it's crept into Islam as well,
mm,
because the Muslims have jumped into the lizard hole. Okay,
yeah. Mm,
when you look back upon the companions of the Prophet and you read about their what we would call escapades, they were not escapades. This was just normal sexuality. This
mm,
was they were very frank about their relationship. I mean, Aisha talked very frankly about what her husband used to do with her,
yes.
and there was no shyness in this, and there was no immodesty either. You
Mm,
see, it was just all on the table. It
mm,
was, as I said in our last conversations, honest.
mm,
See? People are now accustomed to lying about these things.
mm,
They're accustomed to dishonesty, and this dishonesty prevents truth from manifesting in the community, from manifesting in the marriage, from manifesting the kingdom of Allah.
mm,
Okay. So if you don't get these things on the table, if you don't discuss them frankly, then you are preventing the kingdom from incarnating. You are
mm,
preventing the kingdom from manifesting. Okay. And men and women have to get this thing right. It's one of the reasons that I've written about it and I've examined it every which way that I could. And I'm also able to talk about it probably in ways that most people are not.
mm,
Okay.
mm.
Which is one of the reasons we're having this conversation right
Absolutely.
now.
Yeah.
So the the what you mention here is normal. It is natural. No woman wants to enter old age on her own, or
Mm,
at least without the memory of having been united with a good man.
mm,
Okay? No woman in their right mind wants this.
mm,
It is a lonely, lonely place to be.
mm, mm,
Okay? And so, dear ladies, let me restate this. I've stated it before. The mothers of Islam, they did not have their own homes. Okay? Get this right. Okay? They lived in the masjid, all had their own little room up against the same wall. They woke up every morning, they bathed, they prayed, they stirred the fire, and they had to greet each other, okay, in the name of Allah and for the benefit of their husband. Get this right, dear ladies. Okay, get it right or answer for it. Because right now you are defeating the purpose of the mothers of Islam and their sunnah, their example. Now, I'm not saying that they were perfect. Obviously, they had trouble. Okay. Women are troublesome by nature. Okay. It's a challenge to men to help them overcome their own nature. Okay. And it's a challenge to women to help men overcome their own nature. Okay, so that we can spiritualize this thing together. That's what we're on about. That's what we're and it's a daily trial. It's a daily challenge. But I'm warning the women now. The prophet saw more of you in hell from your generation, your present generation, than the men. Okay. And I know how terrible the men can be. All right. I don't like them any more than you do, to tell you the truth. But you're the biggest problem when it comes to polygamy, not the men. It's the women, because they are competing with each other, okay, rather than submitting to the reality of the facts. Now, let's explain some of those facts. Okay, shall we, dear Sheikh?
Yes,
Shall we get
absolutely.
into some of the nitty-gritty here?
Yeah.
Okay. Women are always, there's this Western thing that, and it's probably in the Middle East as well, in other parts of the countries, other parts of the world, where women are likened into what they call a hen party, or, this group of chickens. And, all birds have a pecking order. Okay, there's a pecking order. And if you go into the barnyard and one of the young hens gets out of that order, okay, the mother hen, the big mother hen, the alpha female, will jump on her. And if she does it again, that alpha female starts to peck her until blood comes, and all of the other hens will peck at her until she's bleeding profusely, and they might even kill her. Okay. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because even in a polygamous marriage, there is a pecking order. Okay. And ladies, you've got to get this right. If you're in a situation, and many of you are, where you enter into a polygamous marriage, you have to submit to whatever that divine order is in that marriage. It begins with the husband, not you. Okay, and it moves down from the husband to the alpha female. And that usually is not you. So stop trying to be that alpha female. Okay, you will have to submit to her. Now, I don't know who the alpha female was amongst the prophet's wives. You would probably know better than I, because I haven't really studied them, because I decided not to study them because I knew my study would be incomplete, because I know
Yeah,
that
I mean,
there are
I think this
treatises.
would probably help the mothers. They divided into two groups: the older wives and the younger wives, and they kind
Yes,
of like stuck to the older wives hung out with each other, and the
yes.
younger wives mostly hung out with each other.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the alpha female amongst the younger wives was Aisha, and the
Mm-hmm.
alpha amongst the older wives was Salma.
Ah, okay.
And so it kind of like got divided into almost 5 to 5.
Yes. Okay. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense because you have to in order for there to be like a balanced community, you have to have things in pairs. And for the most part, you know, if you have two children, if you have three children, one of them's always going to be on the outside.
Mm,
Okay, so don't have three children, either have two or have four. You
mm,
see, this sort of thing, so that they pair, and then they balance each other, and then you know whoever the alpha is, they of the whole group, they submit to them. So, yeah, this is descriptive, and this is normal. The problem is that women, you know, this princess thing, this little daddy's daughter thing comes into it, and they all want to be special.
mm,
Okay? My advice is grow up.
mm.
My advice is
But that's
grow
that's
up.
what they're taught. I mean, they watch the Hollywood movies, the
Yeah,
princess, the Cinderella,
yeah,
the Bollywood movies, it's always the hero saving the princess and then they live happily ever after and she's
mm,
completely entitled in every
yeah,
way.
yes.
And that
The,
is what is the image of a happy wife, a happy wife.
that's a false image. If you want to truly become the queen, you have to first become the servant.
Hmm.
Okay, and this is what I watched my wife do. Okay, my present wife, Mali Zaida, when she married me, first of all, she asked me, and I already had three wives. She
Hmm.
asked me to marry her.
Hmm.
Okay, when she married me, she became servant to everybody.
Hmm.
Now she is queen.
Hmm.
Okay, and this is what happened. Okay, she became such a servant that the one child I had from one of the women loved her, loved Molly more than her own mother.
Hmm.
That's how much of a servant she was.
Hmm.
Okay. And this servitude was genuine. It was not faked. It
Hmm.
was not a thing of cunning. She did it naturally. All right. And she was conscious of what she was doing because this is how she was taught
Hmm.
coming up. And she was not born Muslim, she was born Buddhist.
Hmm.
Okay. And so this is what happened. So if you want to become that princess, you don't want to be the princess, you want to be the queen.
Hmm.
If you want to be the queen, then you have to become the servant. He who would be leader must be the servant of all.
Right.
Okay? This
Yeah.
is a principle. It
This
is a
is the
rule of
statement of
thumb.
Omar, Sayyid al-Qawm,
Yeah.
Khadimuhum. The leader of the nation is their servant.
Yes.
That, that's the.
Yes. This is a principle of the kingdom.
Mm,
Okay? It is a principle in marriage as well. If you become servant of all, then I'm going to tell you one thing, ladies. If you want your husband's heart, if you want it, that is how you get it.
mm,
Okay? When your husband sees you being servant to all, he is going to cherish you even more.
mm,
Okay? He will cherish you even more. And there's nothing more. There's two things a woman wants. She wants to be desired and she wants to be cherished.
mm,
Okay? Most of them are preoccupied with the desired desiring part, and they're ignoring the qualifications for being cherished.
mm,
You see, if you want to be desired, well, every woman who's halfway decent looking can make herself desirable. That's not a problem. That's easy to do.
mm,
Okay. It's making yourself cherishable that
mhm,
is difficult. This is challenging. And if you want to be cherished, you become the servant.
mm,
End of discussion. There's nothing else needs to be said about this except
mm.
how to become the best servant. Okay.
You said something very important here. You said especially when the husband is also serving others.
Yes. Yes.
So, I know wives say this to their husbands. Why are you doing this for your friend? Why do you have to do this? And why are you gonna do this service at the mosque or do that? But that is that guy, I guess, doing what he's supposed to do in terms of service, right?
Yes.
And so now when he's in a state of service, he appreciates it when he sees it from his wife.
Yes. Yes.
But women are
Now,
taught, and now this has also become the language, even within our Islamic seminaries. It's
mhm.
become the language of the mainstream, which is everyone talks about my rights, my rights, my rights, my rights.
Oh.
And again, that's the problem with Islamic law, is that
Mm,
it misses the point many times,
mm,
or
mhm.
the soul of it goes away.
Well,
Of course, everybody has rights, but when you're serving others, you're overlooking a portion of that to some degree, sometimes at least.
well, not only that, you are overlooking the reward. You see, the Quran makes this very clear that uh, when you overlook or you give up your right for the sake of peace, then Allah cherishes you more,
Mm,
and your reward is greater.
mm,
Now, I'm sure the Quran puts it in different words, but that is the principle.
yes.
Okay, if you are, if you're preoccupied with your rights, you're just like a child who's gone into the candy shop, and dad happens to slip two jelly beans to one child, and you only got one, and you're going, women, will you please stop this stupid foolishness?
Mm,
Please. This is not Islam. This is not spirituality. Okay? It is not.
mm,
It is childishness, pure and simple. It is selfishness. That's what it is.
mm,
And the men who are promoting this rights thing, who are diving into this pool of legal horse crap, is what it is, okay? They're worse. They're worse because they become tyrants at it. And then they establish this whole stream of maqasid reasoning that overlooks the grace of Allah. It overlooks it.
mm,
The grace of Allah outpours when you give your rights away,
mm,
okay, for the sake of the community.
mm,
And when you say, okay, I give this up, I don't look, I then Allah says, okay, this is my servant. And he warns Iblis, you stay away from this one.
mm.
Then the jinn, they shudder, they have to fall back. You see, when you are preoccupied with your rights, you are inviting the jinn. You're inviting them. Yes, yes. And the jinn are sitting there. Yes, 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 yes. That's mine. That's mine. That's his. That.
Right.
And they want more and more. And there's no end.
There's no
There's
end.
no end to the demand. It just gets worse and worse and worse. So you're actually joining the enemies of the kingdom when you are preoccupied with your rights, and you say, "Okay, I'll become your second wife if you buy me a house and you buy me a car, and I want a credit card, and I want this and I want that. Then I'll do it."
Mm,
Uh, This is the wrong attitude.
mm,
It may be your legal right, but it is the wrong attitude. There's nothing spiritual about it.
mm.
And then Allah says, okay, to the angels and to the jinn, okay, have at it. Have at it. Okay, let them have everything they have. And I think the Quran is very clear on this. Allah
Hmm.
said, just give it to them.
Yep.
No? Because with all of that comes fitna.
Mm,
Okay? Peace does not follow that.
mm.
Peace does not follow the path of rights. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have to assure that rights are met.
Right.
We need to assure that rights are met for those who cannot defend themselves.
Mm,
Okay, because those who cannot defend themselves will always have their rights taken away by the stronger. So we have to protect the weak from the strong. If you happen to want to be an alpha female and you're not an alpha female because you're an alpha bitch, okay, that's a dip. I'm sorry about the coarse word here, but I have to make the point
Yes, I get
because
it.
that's what happens,
Mhm.
okay? And this is the mother-in-law, okay, who is intruding on her husband's wife,
Mm.
on her ground, on the ground that she's responsible for, okay? She's intruding on that ground. So and I'm not talking about, the pecking order in your father's house. I'm talking about the pecking order in your marriage.
Mhm.
So if you have a wife and you have more than one wife, there's going to be a pecking order there. One of them is going to be the chief wife, and she may not be the woman who's in your bed. Okay?
Mhm.
She may be the woman who is now too exhausted or is no longer desirable, but she's cherished,
Mm.
which is more important.
Right.
See? So you women have got to get these things in order
Mm.
in your thinking. You have to have the proper thinking here if you want to handle this sunnah correctly,
Mm.
because it is the sunnah.
Mm.
And why is it the sunnah? Because it is necessary. I'm sorry. You say it's, oh, well, I'm not going to be second or third fiddle. I'm not going to do that. Nonsense. You either do that or you do nothing, or you commit zina,
Mm.
or you enter into a relationship which is only going to bring you more fitna.
Mm.
Make up your mind. Grow up, little princess. Grow
Mm.
up, okay? Get it right. Get it straight. Don't be playing games. Don't enter into the Jewish Hollywood of things because that's all wrong. That's jinn territory. All of it. Okay?
Right. And nowadays, you don't even have to like prove it in a sense that the system has already failed, and
Yes.
everybody knows that what uh, the visionaries of the early 19th century came with in terms of this is what an ideal society looks like. Y-
Mhm.
Social ethics has completely disintegrated in the U.S.
Yes. Yes. Islam has all the answers, but they're not manifesting them in practice.
Mm,
Muslims are not manifesting these answers. They are
mm,
there. They exist. There is a way to do it. Okay? But Muslims are not entering into the correct realm of thinking.
mm,
Okay? And because they have their heads and their hearts are filled with vain imaginations, then Islam doesn't go past the throat. It
mm,
stays here. They do beautiful recitations. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. They build all these beautiful mosques, but there's no beautiful community.
mm.
Yeah?
Subhanallah.
It
Subhanallah.
doesn't exist. It's not there.
Mm.
This siyasiya
I would say
dunya,
not 1 inch in the world.
it's not there. The Amish people have more of this than the Muslims do.
Subhanallah.
Okay, they're the best Muslims on the face of the planet right now. The Amish people and the Mennonites.
Mm.
They're doing it better than everyone else.
That's
Okay,
true. Yeah.
when a woman has becomes a widow, all the men in that community make sure that she's taken care of.
Mm.
There is not. There's nobody that's going to suffer from a need. And I'm going to tell you something, okay? Because I studied this years ago. Princeton did a study on the Amish community because they were the longest living and most successful of the communities that tried to establish heaven on earth. Matter of fact, the book is called Heaven on Earth, okay?
Mm.
Heavens on Earth. And what they found out was it was not the religious belief that caused their success. It was not the religious belief that was responsible. What was responsible was the fact that they met as a community on a weekly basis and they made sure that everybody's needs were taken care of.
Mm.
They made sure that nobody was wanting for anything that was necessary.
Mm.
Okay. So that if there was a widow and she needed a husband, they made sure she had one.
Hmm.
They arranged things so that she would marry an eligible man. Okay, now polygamy is not part of their culture, but there is room for this now more than anything else, more than any other time on the face of the earth. In the Amish and Mennonite communities, they don't have this problem because all of the men are decent,
Hmm.
almost all across the board. And if you are the
That's
decent
another
man,
good point you raised, that if there are 10 girls and there are 10 guys, not all guys will be marriage material.
that's correct. That's
And
correct.
so that also then, and then that raises another interesting question, which is that if there are 10 guys, and let's say uh, 6 guys are marriage material, or
Mm,
7 guys are marriage material, but 2 of them are like super marriage material,
mm.
then shouldn't the women have the right to choose that, I don't want to be with the guy that's not marriage material. I just will share the guy that's super good.
Yes. Then it's up to the women to decide what the pecking order is. You
Yes.
see, who's going to be the primary wife, and that's not a problem. You know, it's only a problem if you have someone who's not submissive. It's only a problem if you have someone with the wrong heart. If you have a woman who with a heart disease who enters into that realm, that marriage, she's going to be nothing but she might even be beautiful, but she's going to be a beautiful pebble in that man's shoe.
Hmm. Hmm.
You see, and she'll be nothing but fitna
Hmm.
until she learns to submit. Once she learns to submit, okay, and become a servant for everyone's welfare, peace enters and the grace of Allah enters. And this is something that can be beautiful. My my wife Mali said to me one time, she said, and this was before I became ill, years ago now, and we would joke. One of the things one of the ways in which I try to keep our romance going is I would always joke with her about, and I would always compare her to my girlfriend, you
Hmm.
see. And so I would say, okay, this is for my girlfriend. It's not for my wife. So shh, do not tell her, you see. And of course, I'm talking about the same person.
Hmm.
And then on occasion, she would come back at me and she would say, if you want another wife, it's okay. You just make sure I'm taken care of.
Hmm.
You see? She said, it's okay. She said, you just pay me.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with this. You see? That's a correct attitude.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, if let me just put it in a different way. If I were one of these hypersexed men, and I, no, I wasn't an Achilles type, but I needed sex frequently. But in my younger years, in my older years, not so much, but frequently, 3, 4 times a week, something like that, before my heart attack. But if she were to come to me and she would say, darling, I'm getting older now, and I don't want to do this all the time. Sometime, okay. I have a friend here, and she needs a good husband. Okay. Would you be interested to marry her? And then I can do such and such, and then, we can share this burden. Okay. And I would say, oh my gosh, wow, this woman really loves not only me, but loves herself
Hmm.
and her friend. You see,
Hmm.
because she's willing to take the correct avenue, the correct approach. And this is what should happen in cases like that, where, for example, the woman is overburdened. Let's just take a wife who has already 3 children. They're all small, and her husband is very active. Okay, and she it would be in her best interest to introduce him to another wife,
Mm,
okay? But one of her choosing, whom she knows that she could have a decent relationship with.
mm,
Now, this doesn't mean that there's not going to be some difficulties. There always are going to be difficulties, but at least you have some sort of a relationship there, okay? The thing I always admonish men, and I've seen many of them do this, they've come to me, or it just happens to fall out in a conversation. Oh, well, I have a mistress and my wife doesn't know.
mm,
And I say, oh, what kind of man are you? You're
mm,
afraid of your wife?
mm,
You're afraid to tell her you have a mistress?
mm,
What kind of man is this? Imagine the companions doing this,
mm.
you see. What kind of men would they be? They wouldn't be the kind of men that were worthy of the name companion, now would they?
Right, right.
Right. To be afraid of your woman. No. The only thing I'm afraid of with regard to my wife, Mali, is I'm afraid of losing her respect.
Mm,
Okay? I'm afraid of losing her respect, her admiration, and her love. They would all go together.
mm,
Okay? That is what I fear. I don't fear her anger. If she's
mm,
angry with me, it's probably a good thing, and I need to listen up because I've done something wrong. Okay? But if I were to lose her love, her admiration, and her respect, I would fear this loss because I would then fear God's wrath.
mm,
Okay? Because a measure of God's love to me is her respect, her admiration, and her love.
mm,
Okay? So my degree of cherishing her would rise. But let's just say it's 20 years ago, and she comes to me. She's got three kids, pulling at her skirts in the kitchen, and I'm horny. Okay, and she said, "Look, darling, enough of this. Here, go take this one for wife. I've already discussed with her. Okay, and we'll work out all the details later. I'm busy right now."
right.
Yeah, this would cause me to love her even more.
And I have seen that. I
Hmm.
have seen uh, brothers who got a second wife and it increased their respect for the first wife. I've
Yes,
seen,
yes,
like you said, the cherishing aspect tremendously.
yes.
So I guess there's a give and take between. So when we put everything on the table. So one thing
Yes,
you said about being afraid of the wife. So again, that has to do with courage, and courage has to do with honesty, right?
yes, yes,
What we live in a society where we're taught not to be honest almost. It's because
yes.
to be honest is to break a taboo.
Oh,
Uh,
yes,
and so we're taught that, uh, that these I guess desires don't exist. Whereas Islam teaches us kind of from what you're saying, teaches us how to manage these desires in a
yes,
very holistic, a very practical way.
yes,
One thing I found about what you said interesting is that when you were talking about the pecking order, uh, there are plenty of studies in psychology that every single relationship has a more dominant and a less dominant. Best friends, husband, wife, uh, two women, two guys, employer, employee. Uh,
yes,
there will be maybe a legal uh, who's authoritative versus taking the directions of the boss, let's say. But then there's the real relationship in which even
yes,
maybe a boss will listen to the employee every time.
yeah,
So every relationship has that
mm,
naturally. There will be a
mm,
pecking order. But I guess what you're hinting at is that if everybody's like, well, what about me? What about me? What about me? And
yes,
you're in that spell that 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 is a result of this culture, then you're going to be fighting against all the wives, and it'll be just fitna, and you're not solving any problems in the long term.
yeah. There's no solution there. The solution is found when the order is brought into the relationship, and the order cannot be imposed. it has to flow naturally.
Mm,
And it flows out of the hearts of the individuals who wish to serve the kingdom of Allah.
mm,
Okay? And this means not serving themselves. When you serve the kingdom, then your own needs are met. They
mm.
come. Okay?
Right.
Allah will test you, and He will test you with things you don't like
Mm,
until you prove yourself, until you prove to Him that your desire to serve Him is greater than your desire to serve yourself.
mm,
Okay? Right now, the Ummah is serving themselves first, and they're pretending to serve Allah,
mm.
okay, with all this outward piety, but there's no inner Islam. It's not there.
Mm.
It hasn't descended beyond the throat, it hasn't gone into the heart. So the heart diseases are manifesting, and that's what you are expressing to me as you share your observations
Yeah, a
of,
very good example of this is the questions we get, right? Everybody's interested in what they can do, what Islam allows them to do.
yes.
Can I do this?
Mhm.
Can I, can I take this job Islamically? Rather
Ah,
than thinking about how can I serve Allah,
yes,
how
yes,
can I serve the Deen? How can I serve
yes,
Islam? Everyone's more interested in questions of, is this halal for me? Can I get a house? Can I get this? Can I get that in mortgage? Can I, everyone's
hmm,
interested in how Islam serves them.
yes,
And the legal opinions are always going to be changing because as things get worse, the legal
yes.
system has to go with that.
I have no doubt that you have your days when you would just like to pull out a shotgun and clear the room.
Well, sometimes the
Okay.
questions are completely like off, right? Like, just as an example, right?
Hmm.
I'll give you two examples. This is just for fun. Uh, in the story of Suleiman, so Suleiman hears the ant, and the ant says, "Go back to your house."
Mm, mm,
Now, the question is, was that ant a male or a female?
mm.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Who cares? What does it have to do with your practical guidance? And
Yes.
I remember one of my sheikhs gave a lecture on the importance of establishing an Islamic political just order system. And
Hmm.
and so he's giving this lecture. We have to establish Islam, and the Ummah has to come together, and we have to do this in this way, and whatever
Mm.
he's talking about. And at the end, people's questions are about things that have nothing to do with that. They're still stuck in their. Can I read
Yeah.
Quran with the Quran? Can I read prayers with the Quran open, or I have to memorize it? It's like
Uh,
they're they're stuck at a certain level where they're not able to think
yeah.
broader.
This is the reductionism that we are always banging our heads against. It's a reduced, closed mind, and it's mostly because of a lack of experience of hearts that are open to the universe. Now, I'm not talking open-mindedness in the Hindu perennialist sense, not at all. I'm talking about being open to the possibilities that Allah has already established when He created the world out of everything that is unseen.
Mm,
Okay, this openness now there is different than just looking in a small periscoped visionary field here, a visual field. These people are, how shall I say, the Jesuits have perfected the system they call casuistry.
mm,
But it is actually the practice of it's a Yiddish Jewish thing of justifying with rhetoric your illegal desire.
mm,
Okay, and so the Jesuits and the Benedictines and all those they got into this system of apologizing for sin, apologizing for the wrong motive,
mm,
and they're saying, well, this we're going to justify this for because it benefits everybody, it's for the greater good, this sort of thing. So people are, what you're describing is a small microcosm of this greater lie. And it's where people want to justify their own small mindedness. They want to justify their own crimes against the kingdom.
Mm.
They want to justify their selfishness,
Mm.
okay, their self centeredness. That is what's taking place. And they will use the law to do this. That's what the law in their minds is for. And
Mm.
so they will look for every little kind of legal ruling until they find the one that fits their circumstance and say, ah, I finally found a mullah who says I can do it this way.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You
That
see?
happens every day. Yeah.
And this is, again, it's another form of childishness. Okay.
Mm.
There's nothing mature about this. See, what we're talking about here, especially in the realm of polygamy, it's a degree of maturity
Mm.
that
Mm.
is a level or two, maybe even more above, okay, the common tread, okay. It's far above the pedestrian Muslim. The
Mm.
pedestrian Muslim cannot handle this business, okay,
Mm.
because it calls for a greater heart. It calls for a deeper spirituality. It calls for a greater commitment to the
You have
benefit
to
of other
you
people.
have to dissolve the lie that we live, in a sense that the mainstream view of marriage and life and relationships, and it's all not based upon real. It's just this imaginary thing that they have superimposed upon everyone.
Well, let's let's look at a normal distribution. Okay, you
Mm.
look at the sine wave and you see one or two areas of deviation from the norm. The norm is in the center. Okay,
Okay.
and let's just say this norm represents the ideal. Well,
Mm.
if everyone could be ideal, then there would be no distribution.
Mm.
Everyone would be up here, okay?
Yeah.
But that's not the way Allah has made the world. We've got
Mm.
a distribution, okay?
Mm.
And there's a normal range of not deviation, but a normal range of the expression of what is normal.
Mm.
Beyond those boundaries, we become abnormal, and you
Mm.
get to the point where entropy is released and chaos takes hold. Okay,
Mm.
so if you want to express yourself as the norm, well, this is called idealism. Okay, and
Mm.
you can become puritanical about this. And this is one of the things that legalism has done
Mm.
to the Ummah.
Right.
They've created a puritanical ideal that nobody can maintain.
Mm.
And yet everybody's going around pretending that they're doing it. You
Mm.
see? Ay, 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 ay. You know, you're keeping the angels very busy, you
Huh.
know, when they're writing all this stuff. I mean, you're actually creating more work for them by
Mm.
this pretense. It's better to say, okay, I can't meet the ideal. Well, the
Again, that
prophet
has to do with honesty, right?
has
Has
to
to
do
do
with
with,
honesty. Okay,
yes,
so you have to say,
honesty
okay,
with yourself.
you know, there are a number of women out there who just have to admit they can't find Mr. Right because he's already taken.
Mm.
Okay, so if there are if there's three Mr. Rights on the block and seven of the other 10 are all Mr. Wrongs and everybody knows it, why would you want to marry them?
Mm.
See, why would you not want to marry Mr. Right?
Mm.
See, so, and I'm talking about Mr. Wrongs, you know, in a criminal sense. Okay, no woman in her right mind wants to be the wife of a criminal
Mm.
with a criminal mind whose intentions are always criminal, whose intentions are always self-centered, id-serving. Okay,
Mm.
no woman in her right mind wants this kind of man. Some women do. Some women like this kind of man. That's up to them. But I'm talking about the woman who wants the ideal, and Mr. Ideal's already married.
Now
Okay.
that would be an interesting topic for next time, which
Yeah.
is this this thing. I don't know if it's a Western thing or
Hmm.
it's imposed by this artificial culture that we live in, you know, the
Hmm.
Hollywood, the pop culture. But
Mm.
it's almost like when sisters are complaining to me or when women are complaining to me, I've had plenty of sisters complain to me, my husband is too good and I need a man that's a little rough. And then I
Oh.
get sisters who are always complaining about their husband being rough.
Ah.
And
Yeah.
and it's like I mean I had one sister say, I didn't want to marry a wimp,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
And you know, he's a very nice guy. And then there are those men that are so okay, this is one category of people
Yes.
where the sister's response is, you know, he's a bit too nice. And
Hmm.
one thing I noticed that I really would like to share with you and get your comments about, maybe next time, but you can say something right now, but we'll continue this next time, is that I've noticed that when sisters accepted Islam and they were in bad relationships and their husbands were not treating them well, and now they got married to a guy who doesn't yell at them, doesn't scream at
Hmm.
them, and doesn't treat them in the same negative way,
Mm.
they found that very strange, meaning it didn't seem normal to them.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
remember one sister saying to me is that yeah, he's a bit too nice, and I'm not
Hmm.
used to that.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one phenomenon
Mm.
where I think you know, girls have this need for, like, I guess maybe a little bit more of a dominating guy. Uh,
Hmm.
or I don't know if it's that or if it's
No, this is something that's across the board. What you're discussing is the manly man whom they cannot find. Okay, they married a puppy dog. Okay, and everybody likes a puppy dog. That's okay. But what they want is the man whose no is no and whose yes is yes.
mm,
Okay. And they want a man who's going to set the limits and mean it. They want
mm,
a man who's firm. Okay. They don't want this a sort of milk soppy guy who's always nice all the time. And what I mean by that is they don't want they want a warrior. Okay, they want the man whom they know they can rely on at the drop of a hat to kill somebody who's threatening them.
mm,
If they don't see that, then they're not. There's an element of respect that they're not going to have for this man because they don't feel secure.
mm, mm,
Okay, so this is across the board. All women sort of look for this in manhood. Okay,
mm,
so it doesn't mean that they can't settle for the milk-soppy fellow who always does everything correctly and who never makes a mistake. I don't happen to like those men either. Okay,
mm, mm,
I like a man who makes a mistake and then admits it. Okay,
mm,
I like a man who gets angry.
mm.
Okay, I don't trust men who don't get angry. Okay, this sort of thing. So, and women will push a man to angry and to anger just to see if he reacts like a
Mm,
man.
mm,
Okay, they want this. They want to be manhandled. I told you
mm.
this before.
Yes, that's
They
right. Yeah.
want to be taken in hand,
Mm,
and they want those hands all over them, and they want that psyche, that manly psyche, all over them.
mm,
They need it. Okay,
mm.
it makes them feel secure. And this is one of the reasons you see Beauty and the Beast, because the beast may be ugly, but nobody's going to truck with him. Okay,
Mhm, mm. Yeah.
so we
So
can carry
that's
on with this.
very good.
I think
Yeah,
yes,
I
take
mean,
it.
this is a very good topic that so next time I want to go into inshallah if I remember, but next time I want to go into that. On the one side we have these novels, these stories, these romance, you know,
Mm,
there's this manly guy and then she submits herself to him, and that's the fitra coming out in a sense, right?
yes.
Then you have the culture, the university setting, the academic dialogues, the gender studies that are like,
Ah,
No, we have rights, and
mhm,
we have to be equal, and we have to
mhm.
do everything in partnership. And how would you like?
Excuse me. I need to vomit. You know, no, I'm joking, of course. Gender studies. There's room for that, but not the room that they're giving it. This is part of the medical study. This is part of psychology, psychiatry. It doesn't have to have its own department. That's not justifiable in my mind. Okay,
Right.
but in the Jews' mind, it is. In the liberals' mind, it is. Of
Yeah.
course.
I mean, it's actually part of the liberals department, these studies.
Yes. Yes. Of course, it would be. It would be.
You know,
All of that is set up to confound the true issues. It's part of this whole casuistry thing that I was just discussing before. It allows people to pursue their selfishness and justify it.
mm,
Okay, if I'm equal with my wife in everything, then what good am I? You see, what does my yes mean? What does my no mean?
mm.
As a man, it becomes meaningless.
Yes.
So what does that happen? It neuters me, okay? It gelds me as a
And this
man.
is what's happened. They have emasculated the man.
Yes, yes, exactly. There was a man who just got arrested in somewhere out west for killing a pedophile, and I would give him a medal, myself. I would that there's a there that I would be like Napoleon, and I say, "There be a man, there be a man." Yeah, give him a medal, reward him, because pedophiles cannot be trusted. But our legal system has turned everything upside down,
Yeah. It
and
has.
this is the scripture said that this would happen.
Mm,
And not only that, the scripture said the people are going to allow it.
mm.
Oh my God. So that brings us back to the mountains now, doesn't it?
Yes. So, inshallah, today was a great conversation, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
And so today, one of your other conversations will be going up, inshallah. So
Very
we'll
good.
end here, and I mean, this is like fabulous because this is the type of conversations we need to be having in Islamic conferences, which we don't. We
Yes.
still have that
And,
romantic Islam and that
mhm.
the ideal Islam, and like let's kind of like a very pacifist Islam, I guess,
Yes.
and a very legalistic Islam. And
Mhm.
these are the real social issues, social conversations that the Prophet was dealing with.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we need to, I think that may Allah bless you a billion, 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 billion times, inshallah, because
Ameen.
I
Ameen.
think this,
And
you know, the effect of this is that it change even for me, it
mhm,
changes the level of conversation in terms of
mhm.
what is important, right?
Yes.
If I'm going to give a khutbah somewhere, I don't have to give it on the remembrance or dhikr of Allah. Maybe it's
Mhm.
more important to talk about these issues that are
Yes.
real issues, right?
Yes. Yes.
Uh, so I will end here, inshallah. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات.
Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, brother.